welcome to the deep dive. You've given us your sources, and we're here to really sift through them and pull out the key insights for you.
Exactly.
Today, we're doing a bit of a sprint, looking at some of the most, well, talked about AI developments recently, all based on the news you've likely seen.
Yeah, think of it as a quick tour.
A rapid-fire briefing, maybe,
Yeah.
on what really matters right now in AI.
That's the plan. We've looked at the recent articles, market leaders, investment news, even some surprising applications. The goal is a concise but hopefully insightful overview for you.
Okay, great. Let's jump straight into the big one, market share. It seems like OpenAI is really pulling ahead in the enterprise space.
Yeah, the data from Ramps AI Index is pretty telling.
What are the numbers looking like?
Well, in April, they had OpenAI use at 32.4% of U.S. businesses on their platform.
Wow, okay. And that's up significantly, right?
Oh, yeah. It was 28% in March and only, 18.9% back in January. That's quite a climb.
That kind of growth, I mean, what does that really suggest?
Well, it's the acceleration that's striking. You look at Anthropic, they grew too, from about 4.6% to 8% between January and April. Still good growth.
Okay.
But Google AI actually dipped. They were at 2.3% in February, down to just 0.1% in April, according to Ramps data.
0.1. Huh.
Yeah. So Ramps' own economist, Ara Karzian, basically said OpenAI is just adding customers faster than anyone else they track.
That's a pretty strong statement, though we should probably add the usual caveat, right? The ramp index.
Oh, absolutely. It's based on their customer spending data. So, it's a snapshot, not the total universe. There could be spending happening elsewhere they don't see.
Got it. A useful indicator, but maybe not the whole story.
Precisely. But that said, OpenAI's own numbers seem to back this up. They reported hitting over 2 million business users in April.
And that was up from 1 million just back in September.
Exactly. Doubled in about, 7 months? That aligns pretty well with the trend Ramp is seeing.
And this kind of dominance, well, it translates into some pretty hefty financial forecasts.
You're not kidding. The projections mentioned are $12.7 billion in revenue this year.
This year alone, wow.
And then a jump to $29.4 billion projected for 2026.
That signals a huge amount of confidence, doesn't it?
It certainly suggests that they believe they can maintain that enterprise traction. And there's talk, potential plans about charging quite a bit, thousands maybe, for specialized AI agents.
Agents for things like software engineering, research.
Exactly. High-value stuff for businesses. It really sets the stage for, an interesting competitive landscape. How will others respond?
Good question. And speaking of competition and investment, that brings us neatly to another piece of news, the U.S. looking into Benchmark's investment in Manus AI.
Right. This adds that whole layer of sort of geopolitical complexity.
So Manus AI, Chinese startup, just got $75 million in funding, led by Benchmark. Puts them at like a $500 million valuation.
That's the report. But now the U.S. Treasury is apparently taking a look.
And the core issue is?
It seems to be about compliance. Specifically, whether the investment fits within those 2023 U.S. restrictions on investing in certain Chinese tech sectors like AI.
Okay. It's that scrutiny over capital flow into strategic areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially between the U.S. and China.
So how did Benchmark justify making the investment? What was their argument?
Well, according to the sources, their lawyers argued Manus AI is essentially a wrapper.
A wrapper. Meaning
it uses existing AI models rather than building its own foundational ones from scratch. That was part one of the argument.
And part two?
Part two is that Manus AI is technically incorporated in the Cayman Islands.
Ah, the Cayman Islands Incorporation. We've seen that playbook before, right? Like with Alibaba, as the article notes, a way for Chinese firms to access foreign money.
It's a common structure, but it seems like that rationale hasn't satisfied everyone. There's been some criticism mentioned, like from Delian Asperahov at Founders Fund.
So the debate continues on whether that structure really bypasses the intent of the restrictions.
It seems so, and it's worth noting, Benchmark, Manus, the Treasury, none of them have officially commented yet, according to the reports.
Right, so still developing.
Definitely. It really highlights this tricky intersection of tech innovation, global money flows, and national security concerns. A space to watch, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears pretty dramatically now from venture capital to the Vatican.
Yeah, quite a pivot.
It seems the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, has already flagged AI as a major issue. That feels quite early, doesn't it?
It really does. In his very first meeting with the cardinals, apparently. And he's the first American pope, which is interesting in
He
itself.
mentioned continuing Pope Francis's precious legacy.
Right. And echoing Francis's concerns, he specifically mentioned AI posing challenges to, quote, human dignity, justice, and labor.
So a direct line of continuity there on the ethical side of AI.
It seems very much so. And the name choice, Leo, is interesting too.
How so?
He apparently identifies with Pope Leo XIII, who famously addressed the massive societal changes during the Industrial Revolution with his social teaching.
So Pope Leo XIV sees a parallel.
Hmm.
AI as a similar kind of transformative, potentially disruptive force that needs a moral framework.
That seems to be the implication. A need for social teaching for the AI age. Pope Francis, you remember, had warned about AI turning human relations into mere algorithms.
Yeah, and he called for international rules, regulations.
Exactly, to keep it human-centric. Especially, he stressed, regarding things like autonomous weapons, no AI making life or death decisions.
Right.
So Pope Leo XIV picking up this mantle right away, it signals the Vatican intends to remain a voice in that ethical conversation.
The article mentions a few other things: a surprise visit to a sanctuary, the context of conservative criticism of Francis, Pope Leo's background.
Yeah, and even a discussion about Catholics in China, that whole ongoing situation with the bishop appointments deal.
But the main AI takeaway seems to be that very early, very prominent focus on the ethical dimension. It's not just about the tech or the money.
Precisely. It's a reminder of the profound societal questions AI raises.
Okay, one more shift. This one's maybe a bit more speculative, fun. AI for talking to animals.
Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. Baidu, the Chinese tech giant, filed a patent.
A patent to do what, exactly?
Yeah.
Translate barks and meows into English?
Sort of. The idea is a system that collects animal sounds, yes, but also looks at their behavior, even physiological signals like heart rate, maybe.
Okay, so gathering a bunch of data points.
Right, and then using AI to analyze all that data,
Yeah.
recognize emotional states, fear, happiness, hunger, whatever, and then translate those states into human language.
So not literal word-for-word translation, but interpreting the underlying feeling or need.
That seems to be the concept. Baidu apparently claims it could improve, quote, the accuracy and efficiency of cross-species communication.
Wow. I mean, people love those viral videos of dogs using the soundboards, the AAC devices.
Oh yeah, the talking dogs. There's definitely a huge public interest in understanding pets better.
Is this Baidu thing related to that? Like a tech version?
Well, the goal is similar, better communication, but the method is different. Those AAC boards rely on the animal learning to press a specific button for a specific outcome or word.
Right. Training.
Yeah. Baidu's approach seems more about the AI interpreting the animal's natural signals. And, it's worth remembering there's still scientific debate about how much those dogs using boards are truly communicating complex thoughts versus making learned associations.
Fair enough. So this Baidu tech, where is it at? Is my dog going to be complaining about the kibble quality next week?
Probably not just yet. The report says it's still in the research stage.
Okay. So an idea, a patent, but not a product.
Exactly. And apparently, even on Chinese social media, there's a mix of fascination and, well, some skepticism about whether it'll actually work.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But still, a pretty fascinating glimpse into where AI could potentially go, right? Trying to bridge that gap with other species.
It really is. It just shows the sheer breadth of AI's potential impact from global business and regulation all the way to maybe understanding your cat better.
So, okay, let's quickly recap our sprint today. We hit OpenAI, really strengthening its lead in the enterprise AI market.
Yep, based on that ramp data and their own user numbers.
Then the U.S. government taking a closer look at Benchmark's investment in the Chinese AI startup, Manus AI, highlighting those tricky global finance and tech regulation issues.
The whole rapper in Cayman Islands situation.
We touched on Pope Leo XIV, making AI ethics a very early priority, continuing the Vatican's focus there.
Linking it back to historical social teaching.
And finally, this intriguing, if early stage, idea from Baidu about using AI to potentially translate animal communication.
A real mix of development.
Definitely shows how fast this field is moving and so many different directions. A lot to absorb.
Absolutely. It's dynamic, multifaceted, constantly evolving.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Looking at all these different facets, the business side, the international investment angles, the big ethical questions, and these potential almost sci-fi breakthroughs like animal communication, which area of AI development are you most curious about? or maybe even most concerned about going forward?
Yeah, what's the next big headline you're watching for?
Definitely something to ponder as AI keeps weaving itself into, well, pretty much everything. We encourage you to keep digging into these topics yourself and thinking about what it all means.